The Parisi Palace, high above 3773's Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Comedy on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And what an honor it is to bring back a friend of the program, a drummer who, along with David Garibaldi, Michael Shreve, Gregorico, and many others were incorporating their love of jazz rhythms and playing time on the top of the kit, using the bass drum for rebound and accents, incorporating that into blues and rock and pop music. And that ultimately is what made, I should say Jim Keltner as well, but the point is that so many of these cats went on to become part of iconic rock bands, but their love was burning polyrhythmic, spiritual jazz music. And in some way, shape, or form, the way my guest has gone about his career, not just musically, but as a writer, he tries to incorporate all of this because I believe that rhythm is love, and I believe that rhythm is healing, and it allows you also rhythm to seek. And my guest has a new book. It's not that new. It's from November, The Seekers, Meeting with Remarkable Musicians. And I think one of the most important things about this book is that because we live in such a celebrity-centric society, it's important to talk about the cats, the unsung cats, and the people that deserve recognition because of their gravitas, because of their depth, and because of their psycho-spiritual qualities that have inspired so many people. John Densmore, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Jesus, psycho-spiritual. What can I say? We're done. You said it all.
I knew you were going to say that. No,
but thanks for that. Mike Shreve and all, good company. Yeah.
Don't you feel like with yourself, Rico was with Sly Stone, Garibaldi with Tower of Power. You could throw in Billy Kreutzmann with the Grateful Dead. But the point is that isn't that what made that rock music so infectious? Was the fact that you, like you said it before, you guys were going home and trying to play after you went to see Blakey. I mean, you maybe not couldn't steal a lick from those guys, but the point is that feeling was there.
Well, I mean, the first job of the drummer is to keep the pulse. But if you have been influenced by these polyrhythmic jazz machines, Elvin, Jones, etc., you find yourself, you got to do the first job, but if you can hear the rest of it and have a conversation with the other musicians, you can push the envelope, and that's what jazz does, It's about freedom. And so it's great to talk to you because you're so knowledgeable.
Yeah, but no, I mean, again, I only have become knowledgeable because of the cats, like yourself and so many others. And we have a game on this program called Name That Voice. I want to put this clip in for you. Take a listen to it, and we'll come back and break it down.
The first retreat we went on, we met Maharishi in Squaw Valley in Lake Tahoe. And we spent maybe 2 weeks there, and Paul Horn and I rented a house with Robbie Krieger and John Densmore from The Doors. And we were there for long meditations and for learning more about meditation. And it just so happened that we really got together with music, and this became part of that beginning structure of learning all about Indian rhythms and microtonal music, and continuing all our studies with both meditation and music. And to this day, I'm very close with John Densmore and Robbie Krieger, although I don't see them as often as I used to. When we do run into each other, it's like we've never been apart. We just know that all of that good feeling is still there.
Well, I think you probably know who that is.
Oh, I mean, the good feeling is still there now, even though Amel Richards has crossed over.
I did that interview was done almost 10 years ago today. That's before we ever did an interview. And, I used to.
Yeah, that's why I agreed. Amel said this guy is really good, and so I went, yeah. For
I
first
mean,
interview.
when I saw him a couple years ago, 2 years ago, he was like, I thought it was so cool because he's like, I go to lunch with John once a week. I mean, you went out of your way, not you wanted to keep that connection. And I guess maybe my question is, as it relates to the book, can you talk about where your mind was at before meditation? Why did you seek meditation? Because like John McLaughlin, when he came to the States, he was doing hard drugs, and he wanted to be able to access the spiritual plane of music without using hard drugs. So he went. I mean, he went to the ashram, found Sri Chinmoy. There's some great stories there, but the point is, he got to that level. And I just want to know why you sought out meditation in your life.
All right. Well, I need to break down "Just Say No," Nancy Reagan phrase. It's a very complex subject, drugs. It's not as simplistic as just say no. Mm-hmm. And so at the time, we were taking then legal psychedelics. And, there's a big difference between that and heroin and coke and whatever. The culture went on to coke. That became cool, which was a mistake. And then heroin was very cool in the 30s with jazz guys. But Anyway, the LSD was insightful, but hard on the nervous system. A lot of knowledge seems to be around dangerous things, like around a peyote button is psilocybin or strychnine. You have to pick it off. So we were thinking, okay, meditation, certainly a longer route, but less shattering to the nervous system. So that's what sort of pushed us in that direction. Not as extreme as McLaughlin, hard drugs to meditation. It was more, we were street scientists experimenting with LSD and pot and not abusing it and thinking that alcohol was evil. Anyway, that's the backdrop that got us into meditation. But just like Amel said, then, really, Maharishi, it's funny, he's the Doors press agent. He didn't know it, but he jump-started this entire look into Indian culture and music and Ravi Shankar, and the whole world got steeped in curry. And I'm a writer.
I know you are. No, I know you are.
And so, what a gift! Oh my God! We're still reverberating from that one. And so it pleases me greatly that I have a chapter on Ravi Shankar and to not in the biz, lesser-known folks like Amel Richards, because they are on the level of these icons.
I just find it so exhilarating because I can see it from, like 30,000 feet, and I love all the records Amel did in that period of time, and yet you were there, and I just would love you to just talk about, in your mind, he's been on probably more soundtracks than ever before. He said cartoon music was the hardest music to play. He played with Sinatra. He's with Sinatra, Basie, Shearing. What is the legacy? I couldn't ask a better person. Can you talk about the legacy of Amel Richards to modern American and world music?
Well, think of the arc from Sinatra to Ravi Shankar to George Harrison. Right. Played with all of them. Oh my God! That's just a whole gamut right there. That covers the 30s to the end of the 60s. So the guy must have had something that everybody wanted, and he did. He was just. I think I write in this book that musicians are what connects all these people, and it's a diverse group, because that's what fed me was diversity. I got the conductor of the L.A. Philharmonic, Gustavo Dudamel. I got Patti Smith. I got my mom. Oh, my God. And Ravi Shankar and Amel. What connects all these people is sound. The musicians hear the world. Painters see the world. And so Amel is so in love with sound. He built various eccentric instruments that would chimes that would drop into a trough of water.
Absolutely, absolutely.
To convolute the sound. So that's the whole deal. And actually, I go on a bit cosmically about how without silence, which is the meditation thing, sound is, if you have all sound and no silence, you have no contrast. And I'm not the fastest drummer in the world, but I think I play musically because I try and breathe, and I think I have a Ringo quote that if you leave a hole in a drum beat, that's as important as hitting a cymbal. So
the ghost notes,
anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, can you just from your memories? I mean, what he was talking about with the retreat. I want to be very clear. Amel in another part of it, he talked about the first group with Mia Farrow and the Beatles. They went over
yeah, Robbie and I were going to go over, but we just thought, I don't know, it's just a little too celebrity-esque.
Well, also, I mean,
I love all those people, but
totally. I mean, I think that Maharishi was unaware how much LSD they had been doing and had them on these long silent meditations, and it freaked him out. So then, I mean, what was the...
All right, wait, let me interrupt.
Go ahead.
Maharishi did not come on to Mia Farrow.
You told me that in the... No, I don't want... Yeah, we know that. But I mean, did you go to India first, or was the Paul Horn thing?
No.
Yeah.
I've never been to India.
Wow.
No, Paul and Amel were there. But I fell in love with India after being exposed to its culture. It's fed me greatly.
And in hindsight, I'm curious about once you started to become sincere about this path of meditation and polyrhythms. How did it change your drumming? How did it change your artistry on the drums?
Well, Elvin fed me greatly. I'm watching him. Sometimes McCoy Tyner, Coltrane's pianist, would just kind of leave the stage for 15 minutes. Coltrane would turn around, face Elvin straight on. Jimmy Garrison would keep playing the groove, bass player.
Right.
And they would have this conversation. It was just like, just the most primal, cathartic thing I'd ever heard in my life. And it gave me the idea that I'm going to do the job of keeping the beat, but I could talk to Jim Morrison. Why not? He says something in his poetry, I'm gonna answer it, or whatever.
I dig. So
what have they done to the earth? What have they done to our fair sister? Stuck her with knives in the side of the dawn, tied her with fences, dragged her down. So instead of playing the beat, I'm going. I'm programmatically playing what Jim's saying. Thank you, Elvin.
I want to be clear. Like, were you obviously when you went and found meditation? Were you struggling at all? Because so many of your peers became roadkill at that time. People you may or may not have known. I mean, there was just this idea that Coriel. This is more like an East Coast thing, but Carlos, Michael Shreve. Michael's talked to me a lot about. They wanted to live. They wanted to keep living, and they were afraid, based on what they saw with their peers, that they weren't going to be around. Did you have, setting aside Robbie or the craze of Maharishi and the whole thing? I mean, for you specifically, did you want to be able to live and see your grandkids and live a life? And that's why,
most definitely. So Jim was a teaching in being an example of going too far all the time.
Right.
And I certainly dabbled, except for heroin. I just, I wasn't going to go there because too scary. And there are too many horror stories.
Horror stories.
But I thought I'm going to be moderate here because Jim's just he's a kamikaze drunk. Although, people do ask me, well, if he had lived today, would he be clean and sober? And I used to say no, and now I say yes, because it's a different time, and, you got Clapton and Eminem's CD was called Recovery.
Right.
And he's another really talented, angry guy like Jim. And so, yeah. Plus, I want to encourage kids to, if you feel you have a glass of wine or a hit, and then you have a case, then you've got the gene, and it's whatever works. It's cool now to be straight edge, as the punks called it.
I dig. No, I know.
I used to be judgmental about people who couldn't dabble, and now I know a slew of people who don't, and they're as cool as anybody else. So.
Well, and as it relates to, and I got to be honest, I have several books out now, and I'm very envious because currently your bestseller rank for the Seekers is at 148,000. That's unbelievable that it's been out in November, which means there's this.
What? Let's say that again.
Yeah, I'm looking at Amazon. The Amazon rank, meaning the amount.
Rank.
The point is, it's really good for it to be.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so what I'm saying is, can you talk to the audience a little bit about how you use meditation to clear out the dark corners of your heart to get into the flow of writing, if you do?
Well, I don't, around time with Amel, I meditated twice a day for friggin' 10 years or whatever.
How long? Each time?
Half hour.
Yeah.
It's funny. We used to, in recording, Robbie and I would go in the vocal booth, and Jim and Ray'd have to sit around for a half hour.
I love it.
Yeah, great. That's, that's maybe what kept our sanity. What can I say? It's a balance. And now it's just sort of with me. I don't formally do it, but, when I'm going to bed and waking up and I'm on an airplane. Remember that, Jake?
Yeah, dude, it's been a minute, dude. It's been a minute.
Pre-COVID.
No, I was going to say, do you find, I remember we just lost the great bassist Paul Jackson from the Headhunters, and rest in peace.
Right.
And when I did my interview with him, he said, I was like, he's like, stuff would just come out in the music. There was nothing, it just fell out. Do you find in your own writing style that when you read back something, you're like, wow, I wrote that? Is that kind of the writing style that you have?
I would say that, I don't directly cop Elvin Jones' licks, and I read a lot now, and I don't directly cop the prose of somebody else, but I'm influenced by it.
Sure.
I'm sure you are.
Oh.
So I think the length of a sentence is a musical question. If it's short, it's percussive. If it's long, it's melodic or lyrical. Or it's a run-on, and I better edit.
I love that analogy, man. That's unbelievable.
That's kind of... And a lot of writers do this, but if I feel stuck or whatever, I sit there and I read the paragraph out loud.
Right.
And that tells you a lot,
Well, I've got another name that voice for. I was sitting by the pool yesterday. I was like, there's just so much I've done since I last talked to John. So you're going to take a listen to this voice, and we'll come back. Yep.
When I started playing music again, after my teacher died, before, he died in 2003, I didn't start playing with Krishna until 2005. So I did start to play music again, but then I got to the same point I did before. And I said, listen, and I didn't ever really pray at that time. I was more of a Taoist, Buddhist kind of into the void kind of thing. So I said, listen, okay, you gave me this gift of music. Okay, there's nothing else that I can do. Please, I just want to support you. I don't want to deal with this ego stuff of being in the band. I don't want to deal with being tripped up of trying to please people and make people enjoy what I do and perform. I want to go deeper. I want to support you, whoever you are, or whatever you are. And that night is when Krishna Das asked me to play with him.
Wow.
So that also my connection to Maharaji, that was that. So it's like that, this is how it comes through me. Some people it's painting, some people it's dancing, some people it's singing, some people it's being a doctor or doing whatever you do, So it's seva in a way, or the practice of seva, of surrendering to that, So when I play, I try to surrender in that moment and be with whatever that music is, whatever is coming through, to try to surrender into that, to be absorbed in that, to lose myself in that, and also completely aligned with wherever that music is coming from and how it wants, of what it should be, what it's going to be, and just allowing it. This is what the universe wants to express right now. Sometimes it's insane, just like the world is insane, and sometimes it's dark, sometimes it's beautiful. I think it's all healing.
Mr. Densmore, you want to take a guess at who that is?
Well, you threw me for a curve.
I threw a curve. Fernando Valenzuela
there. But A.K. Alan Bruggeman, a.k.a. Arjun.
Arjun Bruggeman.
Isn't it amusing? Jeffrey Cagle, a.k.a. Krishna Das, Richard Alpert, a.k.a. Ram Das.
Yep.
All these Jewish guys go to India, and whoa. But what's so beautiful is they're the real deal. They were with the guru. They gave him LSD, and he went, what else you got?
Yeah, right. He unfazed.
And so, they were given those names by some of these masters, and so it's great. I mean, there's a cottage industry out there with a lot of white people changing their name to some sort of Hindu god. But I think I quote Arjun in this book.
Well, no, we've become very, he's a Tao bro. I'm a Taoist. And we've become very close. And he was so giddy when your book came out and said, that's why I played that. Why talk about meeting? Why is Arjun remarkable to you? I mean, he's younger than Ram Dass and Krishna Das and Dr. Larry Brilliant. And so, how have you? Can you just talk about your relationship musically, personally, with Arjun?
Sure. Wait a minute. Taoist. What would you define a Taoist?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's a way of life. It's not a religion, but it's essentially just trying to, through cultivation, getting closer to your true nature and getting away from habitual nature, the things that tie you up. So, I mean, and my teachers in Tucson, where I live, they're from Taiwan. They are not from this country, and they live the Tao. It's you're on the right path, and it's like, I mean, I got to be honest. When I listen to Maharishi on the record that I have, Dick Bock, World Pacific record, he talks about cosmic intelligence, and the more you cultivate, the more you can tap into.
Love, very good. Love tickles the heart.
Dude, the man was stone genius, man. Unreal, dude.
So, I always think of Taoism. I kind of kid around that I'm a Taoist when I think about how water cuts rock.
That's right.
Eventually.
That's right.
So, therefore, as Arjun is talking about things coming to him, I struggle with projects or whatever the hell, and then finally it happens or doesn't, and that's the Taoist moment of, it's all the ducks are in a row, that you aren't pushing, right?
That's the zone. That's it. That is exactly it. And that's maybe a beautiful question. I mean, I don't want to get too away from Arjun, but John, truthfully, every cat that I've talked to, that Tao concept is when they can get out of their own way, musically.
Yeah, when you quoted Amazon, whatever that number was about my book,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about how many books I sold, which is
No, and what I'm saying is
quite a bit less than that.
I just want to be very clear. I want to be,
here.
Johnny, I got to tell you, this morning I looked at it. It's gone down, which means you sold at least one copy today. This book's doing really well. Let me just be very clear about that.
All right.
Yeah.
So, but, I put it out during the pandemic. I don't know. I was trying to talk them into spring, but they've got their other books to promote. And, in the acknowledgments at the end, I tell this little story about Gurdjieff, who the title of the book is borrowed from Gurdjieff's Meetings with Remarkable Men, which was sort of a mystical
the fourth
book
way,
by
right?
Armenian,
the fourth way.
Fourth way?
He believed in the fourth way.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm into 5-4. Yeah. So at the end of it, I tell this little story about how he's in a pub, and the seekers. By the way, we're all seekers. I don't want this to be exclusionary. And I also say in the book, if you play piano in a closet and no one hears it, or you do a painting and no one sees it, you're going into the same zone as all these famous people. So that's that meditative healing thing about creativity, or just taking a conscious walk, or whatever the hell it is. Anyway, Gurdjieff says, people come to hear him talk. He goes, I don't like this place. Let's go somewhere else. And he goes to another bar or whatever, and then half the audience is cut. And then he goes to a third one, and down late at night, there's a few stragglers, and then he starts to really impart the jewels. And I'm looking at my book. It comes out. Obama sells 900,000 on the first day.
Right.
And I'm like, oh shit. And then at the end of the acknowledgments, I write, well, I hope I do well with this book. I just want to thank you for those of you who get it and pick it up, and I'll try not to be disappointed about the numbers. I'm still a work in progress.
It's not exclusionary. We all are seekers, but part of it is also tapping into, I think, a realm that because right now, John, and you know this better than anybody, you had, Sly Stone got on Ed Sullivan's show, and there were 3 TV stations, and there were several radio stations, and you'd go and pick up the latest Shelly Manne record. You'd listen to LPs. Today, my generation, I'm 43, and younger, we are saturated with visual information. YouTube, and most of it is really mediocre. And I wonder what your advice is, because I think everybody has the seedlings of Sikhism, seeking. How do you get cats to drop below the surface? Because like someone like me, I'm already, you're preaching to the choir with this book. But what are the intangibles for people who actually maybe come from a very conformist household or don't even know where to start? How do you tap into to be a seeker?
Well, I think we're all born with kind of a yearning. We used to have so-called primitive cultures had initiations at 13, which, kind of defined the moment where, okay, now you're leaving your parents, we're cutting the umbilical cord, and you're going to be a man.
Right.
Actually, somebody said that the Doors have endured because Jim helps them cut their umbilical cord every generation. It's kind of cool. But since we don't have that in a formal sense, it takes sometimes till 30, 40 to figure out, who you are, or maybe you have your ladder against the wrong wall, and you, wait a minute, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to do something else. So I don't know. Intuition. Well, look, this pandemic. I mean, it's this horrific death and darkness.
Absolutely.
The silver lining. We're all forced to be monks.
Absolutely, dude.
And
absolutely.
So, we're sequestered. And my friend Michael Mead, he was a Robert Bly sidekick. And he's a brilliant mythologist. He says we're going through a global initiation, and we're in the descent. That's where you have to be alone, the vision quest on the mountain and no food and whatever the hell.
Right.
And then when you come up and come out, hopefully you have a different vision because of what you went through. And so here we are, and we've been forced to look in more. Oh, well, that's where the real answers are.
That's right.
So then you'll find out. I don't want to be a doctor, or I do, and I just want to play piano in my closet, or whatever it is. I mean, everybody's road is different. But inside is all the answers.
I want to get something on the record here because I've talked to Keltner about it, and then I just recently did a...
Oh, wait, excuse me. I don't want to leave Arjun behind.
Oh, yeah, please go. Please, Arjun,
yeah,
please.
Let me just say, I mean, how old is he?
He's like a couple years older than me. He's in his 40s, I think.
Oh, he's okay.
Or maybe he's 50s. I don't know. Anyway, he was so gleeful. He's like, John, I'm one of the cats.
So, I mean, I sat on stage with Ravi Shankar at UCLA Royce Hall and just drooled over Allah Rakha's, and he's the tabla player. And his son is the greatest tabla player alive, Zakir Hussain. But Arjun, he's bridged modern music and ancient Indian music. He's I don't know. He's crossed the gap. He can do it. He could just swing like a rock drummer.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You're saying he crossed the Rubicon? I mean, he can really fuse the two?
He can do that. And then with that technique, he can do this groove feel that's just, whoa. We did a benefit for the homeless. This is pre-pandemic, a couple of years ago. Me and Robbie Krieger. And it was great. All these great people. Jason Morantz. Oh God, I'm trying to think of this.
I remember the gig. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's the singer? British woman and guy. Guy wore the hat, and she has incredible pipes. All right. Anyway,
it'll come. It'll come. Yeah.
They all perform, and I got Arjun to play.
Wow.
And we played some Doors songs, and he was playing tablas. But, I mean, it was gorgeous. The tablas in Crystal Ship, that works. I don't know. What can I say? And then when we did Roadhouse, I told him just to sort of play a shaker or something. But the guy is, he's open. It's a beautiful thing. He's got all this ancient Hindu stuff, and then he's a young, open dude. So that's why I like him so much, musically and personally.
I think it's freaking great because he did grow up in Jersey playing in rock bands and punk bands, and part of the issue.
He's a very good trap drummer.
Very good trap drummer, able to bring that to the hand drums, the tablas, the Indian drums. Now, John, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the man who, Zakir is the man, and Allah Rakha, obviously. But this man was called Ravi's little genius, is Colin Walcott. Did you cross paths with Colin?
No.
Were you hip to him at all?
No.
Well, he was in the
Help me out.
Wow. Okay, so he was at UCLA. I mean, he was in the same milieu as you, and then one night Ravi was at a party in the hills, and Colin was a decorated tabla player, played marimba. Actually, he had Jason Robard's apartment in New York City, and then he drove. Ravi had like 20 minutes to get to LAX, and they said, well, Colin's the best driver, and so he somehow got Ravi there, and after that he became his disciple, and then what happened was Colin joined the band Oregon. You know that band with Ralph Towner.
Yeah.
So he was and then he tragically died. But I was wondering.
Oh shit.
Did you not that you went to the Ali Akbar Khan school? Or I mean, you were clearly a trap drummer. Did you did you dabble with tablas back in the day?
Well, yeah. I didn't go. I went as I said to. Ravi's daughter, Anushka,
yes,
whom I saw play a few years ago. Amel was there too. I said, I was in your dad's Kanara School of Indian Music in L.A., and she said, I heard that. I said, yeah.
Wait, so you were doing dumbeg and tabla. I mean, I got to hear some tapes of this stuff.
Oh, there's nothing. I don't have any.
I'm kidding.
I realized it would be a year before I could start to have fun. This is the most difficult drumming ever. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I loved learning enough to realize how difficult it was. And so Robbie Krieger was studying sitar, and I studied tablas. And this was just a few months in between Doors tours. But, and then one day Ravi Shankar came to talk to the school. This is in my first book, I think. I have 3 self-centered memoirs now.
We are really going to go deep. No, let me just see. The Riders on the Storm and Light My Fire. No, that's Manzarek. Yeah. That's Manzarek. I'm sorry. I mean, the book you wrote. Well, anyway, continue. So Ravi came.
First book, Ravi Shankar came and he gave a talk about how you could sublimate your sexual drive into practicing your instrument. Whoa! That burned in my 20-year-old ears with the constant throbbing in my pants.
Absolutely.
What?
I mean, I love it. So can you go, what did he say? I mean, did you have to, what was the...
No, he didn't say, he was just encouraging it. He didn't, there was no, But it's, wait a minute. This is either in The Doors Unhinged or...
Riders on My Life.
At the end of the thing, I said, well, that's just great, but I don't know if I can adhere to that. And it's interesting how sitar music became so popular. It got co-opted, of course, and became the soundtrack to porn flicks. And Ravi sued and couldn't stop them. And then I went, the sound of God became the sound of sex.
Dude, Dennis Budemer was playing the sitar. I mean, dude, these cats were out of control. So I just I know because clearly my favorite, Jim, I would have loved to have just caught a hang with that guy, but my favorite Doors is Densmore, Krieger, Manzarek stuff with Charles Lloyd, Francisco Aguabella.
Oh wow!
Did Ravi ever record sitar on any of those stuff, or did you ever record? You never put any Indian top percussion on any of that stuff with you playing.
No, but Ravi tuned his guitar to Indian sitar tuning on the end. And Indian Summer, so we were certainly influenced by that. And I suppose my drumming, I took the snares off on the end. I wanted the tom-tom sound, which is a little more tabla-esque, and there's a lot of spaces, and I just leave it open. And then I drop bombs during quiet parts. God knows why, but later people tell me that...
Dude, it was all taste, man.
People tell me later that I heightened the tension by doing that, which you'd think you should not do if it's a quiet part. But that's channeling what Arjun is talking about. Just, you've got enough technique. You can overdo technique. Some classical musicians are a little stiff because of that. But you've got enough technique to get across your uniqueness, and then you just let it go. And the music tells you, and you're in the moment, and then you drop bombs or whatever the hell comes out. And the Doors, fortunately, because Jim couldn't play an instrument, couldn't play one chord, he said, let's say all songs by the Doors, not lyrics by me. Let's split all the money. Let's be 4 equal parts. And Wow.
That's
So
the
then
Tao right there. That's the
everybody-
Tao. That's the Tao right there. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
So everybody gave 200%, and nobody really criticized what the other was doing.
I did.
You know, you kind of, I mean, you know, maybe if it was way out there, you might go, pull that in a little, but it was pretty democratic for that little run.
And we're talking to somebody, John Densmore, who's an iconic individual drummer with an iconic band, but you also have like, I know your taste, and I wonder, I just want to read this to you, and then, because Keltner used to call Bruce Botnick and say, why can't you make my drums sound like Densmore's drums on the radio? And then this is what Botnick told me in the interview. He said, Densmore's set was going from the studio in the afternoon to a club like the Whiskey, and he was playing at night. This was just about every day, and he brought his own drums and set them up. We'd set them up, and they were beaten, but that was his sound, good, bad, or indifferent to how they were tuned. That was your sound. Now, can you just juxtapose that to, like, the fact that people will take 44 hours just to tune their drums today in the studio? I mean, talk a little bit about the connection between the spiritual connection of your drums in the studio and live playing, because, you know, that's your sound.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, I didn't understand that it's good to dampen the drum heads a little bit in the studio. They just they ring too much if they're really tight. And but Paul Rothschild, who taught us how to make records, and he was great, but he was a perfectionist, and after a while his getting a drum sound was over the top. And by the time we did L.A. Woman with Bruce Botnick producing, we did the drum sound in 20 minutes. And Bruce said, "You know what it's you know." And what it is that I hate new drum heads.
Right.
And when I put on a new one, it doesn't bark back at me, and you know, I did Questlove's podcast, I don't know, a month or two ago, and he said, you know, that floor tom in the intro to Hello, I Love You, it goes ba-da-bow, boom, boom, bum, 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 bum. He said, where is that? Can I have that? Can I buy that?
Right.
So, because of the sound. And I think it was a calfskin head. I mean, like...
well, that's what a lot of... Yeah.
Levon Helm is the only guy who left all the calfskin heads on his drums because they're animal skin. They change with the weather. You constantly have to tune them. It's a hassle. And most of us went to plastic. But he didn't. But he knew you're going to hear the animal talking back to you. So,
how long does it take you to beat in a new pair of
a few weeks.
And I want to be very clear. You had, like, because you guys were playing a lot live, would you have cartage? There was no cartage back then. I mean, how did you get your drums to the Whiskey?
Well, I mean, in the very beginning, I did do it all myself. The first album and the Whiskey and all that. Well, certainly once we got going, we got help, and then I didn't. Then I could be Jim Keltner, walk in, sit down, play, go to the next session. You know.
Well, let me be clear. He had his Volkswagen, so he didn't have cartage for a long time. Blaine was really the originator of that, but I just think it's so great. Like, did Whiskey have its own trap set, and you were like, I'm going to just use mine?
No,
I mean,
no.
Okay, so you brought your own.
No, and you know, really beautiful thing. We were playing. We were being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Keltner was the drummer for the house band.
Right.
And we had a rehearsal out in the valley, and you know, there was a bunch of groups, and I said to Jim, well, you know, maybe I should just use your drums. And he went, no, I want to hear your sound. So there you have it.
I'm telling you, I'm going to send you this audio later. It is priceless. When he's like, I want to hear, to think that he was in his Volkswagen listening on probably maybe, did you guys get AM radio play? I bet you did.
Yeah.
And he's listening. He's like, Bruce, why can't you get my drums to sound like that? You know? I mean,
Jim, I didn't know until I was on the cover of Modern Drummer, and long article, and Jim was. I found out then that Jim had played like bebop jazz before he became this famous session dude.
It's unreal.
And I did say in that article, you know, if you really want to get the really essential creative Jim Keltner, pick up Gone Like a Train with Bill Frisell and Jim and I can't think of the bass player. It's just a trio thing. Oh, Jim is playing so free and showing all his shit. Oh, it's just beautiful.
You know what's funny is there was a record label called Revelation back in the late 60s, and Gary Foster was on it, also Claire Fisher. And Keltner is on one of these tracks. It's like a 17-minute track, and I sent him and he was so embarrassed because he's playing free. I mean, him and Stinson, all they wanted to do was be, Philly Joe and
yeah.
You know, and did you go to the Dragon Wick to see Lloyd and Hutcherson at all?
Dragon Wick?
Yeah, the Dragon Wick Club.
Where's that?
Well, this was in, I want to say it was in L.A. proper.
Really?
Yeah.
God,
yeah.
I thought I knew everything. No. Wait a minute. Was that on Adam? No, that was Memory Lane on Adams.
Memory Lane was the real deal. Were you down there?
Oh, I went there, sure.
Oh.
I went to the Adams After Hours sessions.
Oh, my.
Oh, I went everywhere. I retract jazz in L.A., that's for sure.
You went to I guess there was the Ahmad Jamal used to play at the It Club. There was a lot of amazing. I mean, do you?
I went. Now I went to Fifth Street Dick's in Leimert Park, and then I got to play on Billy Higgins' drums at the World Stage.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
After
that's
he
beautiful.
And he had so many rivets in his cymbal. That's where, you know, the little things that make it sizzle, which is a sound I copped from Ed Thigpen, Oscar Peterson's drummer, at the very beginning. And, you know, you can hear the sizzle on Riders on the Storm. I just dropped my stick into Billy Higgins' ride cymbal, and it was like butter. It was just like... It was amazing.
Two guys I want to ask you about. Tim McIntyre. Did you know Tim?
Oh, sure.
Tim is deep in my spirit because there was this album that I cannot stop listening to, and it's called The Fun Zone. And it was Jock Ellis, who plays with Robbie now, and Wolfgang Meltz, my dear buddy, who played with you, and then...
And played with Gabor Szabo, I think.
And Keltner did at that time, too. They were playing acoustic jazz. That was the most amazing with Richard Thompson from the Association. But can you talk... when
Richard
I listen to Tim McIntyre...
Hang on, Richard Thompson was in the English group, not the Association.
Not in the Association.
The... okay. It's with the...
I'll look it up. I know what... Can you... Tim McIntyre... When I listen to Tim... and I know he was heavily influenced by Jim Morrison, but man, dude, his singing voice takes me on a trip. When did you first cross paths with him?
Well, he was an actor, and then we used to go for jam sessions at his house because everybody knew everybody. Gary Busey was there, and he had little wire glasses, and his blonde hair was bleached black, and he had all tied up in little curls on top, and he was just about to do Buddy Holly.
Absolutely. He was in a band called Carp,
Yeah. And we all knew each other, and we all jammed, you know.
And the other thing is Ben Benet. He wound up, did you know Ben?
I met him a couple times quickly because Bruce had produced one of his albums, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, mysterious.
And Sal Marquez, who played with the Johnny Carson band, he was in on all the jams.
I have one more voice to play for you, Johnny, and we'll come back.
Okay, well, I was playing under the pier in Redondo Beach here in California, and they had a lot of little clubs along the pier. So on my break, I would go in and fit in with other clubs. So this keyboard player, the girl, Alex Richmond, was playing at Hollahan's, and she gave Robbie my name. Robbie called me up. He says, I'm Robbie Krieger, formerly of the Doors, and we need a bass player. And I laughed at him. I said, yeah, right. What else? And he says, oh, no, really? And so they said, well, come on down to an audition. I said, you have to tell me something that's on an album. And he told me, the name of my publishing company is Nazenflat. And I said, oh, yeah. And so he says, come on down to an audition. It was at 2122 Granville in West L.A. It was the old factory. And there was about 30 or 40 guys waiting for the gig. And we just went in, and I auditioned, and I played with John and Robbie, and they said, okay, come back for the second round. And process of elimination, I just auditioned until I got the gig. Well, no, actually, I introduced them to Bob Marley because he was a friend of mine. I brought Bob Marley and Tyrone and Al. Because we were doing Get Up, Stand Up. So I brought all of Bob Marley and the Wailers to our rehearsal studio while we were learning to do the song before we went to the studio.
No, I see.
So they were all sitting there watching us learn their song. I actually introduced Bob Marley to Robbie and John and everybody, and I talked about, "Cool, come to rehearsal with me. We're doing Get Up, Stand Up," and so they all came because we were jamming and stuff. And they all came to rehearsal, all of them. That was. I really thought I brought something to the party because I mean, Robbie and John were like my heroes. I was like 19 years old, and these were the Doors. It was like, oh my God. I mean, I always told Robbie and John, if I ever get a Grammy, when I walk across that stage, I'm going to thank Robbie Krieger and John Densmore because my gratitude for them is infinite because they kind of gave me a start. I was just a teenager, and, we call it the Big Five because we couldn't say Doors because they were having that problem with the Doors, the Butts Band, so we called it the Big Five, DOORS. But I brought Bob Marley down there, and they listened. And when we recorded the song, I was very proud of that.
Yeah, I think when I interviewed Densmore, he told me that I've been doing a lot of work since we last talked, John.
Jesus, help me.
Yeah, dude, that is Carl Slick Rucker.
Right, exactly.
All right, and the coolest thing that he said is that he he
didn't physically bring Bob Marley down. He brought Bob Marley records, and we were blown away.
Okay, so he did not. Just for the record, because he says that he was friends with them, and he brought them in. But the thing,
he was friends. Maybe he was, But I the only time I met Marley was backstage at the Roxy when we had heard them play, and I think I break that all down in the chapter on Marley in this new book.
What was it? Can you talk about what was Bob? What was that meeting like?
Well, that was just a quickie. It was just he knew we did Get Up, Stand Up, and he kind of gave me a high five, and that was about it. I couldn't. Walking into the dressing room, physically there was so much pot in the air, I almost passed out, But what his gift was playing a rhythm, fighting against the system.
Right.
Reggae was so weird. And I break this down. Oh, hey, you know what, Jake?
Go ahead.
This book, The Seekers, I did an audio version.
Yes.
Where I read the whole thing, and then I wrote music. Maybe about a third of the book has Doors drum beats under it and me playing piano like Jerry Lee Lewis, and it's got music to break up the blah blah. So in the Marley chapter, I break down how reggae turned the beat around, the bass drum. They just flipped it, and it was just such a mind blower for us drummers. And on the audiobook, I demonstrate that.
But did you? So you feel like he was somebody who you didn't know him personally, but he was pushing back against, repression. I mean, everything
hypocrisy, racism, all of it's all there. No woman, no cry. I mean, the guy was gifted,
John, what is the? It seems simplistic to a degree. From your point of view, what are the biggest obstacles to a viable? I know you're not road dogging it anymore, but my fear, Danny Korchmar told me in our interview, he said, music used to run our culture. Definitely when you were coming of age, it dictated culture, and it doesn't anymore. And the one industry that
I'm not sure. But go ahead.
Yeah, no. Just let me finish. the one industry that has completely stopped since the pandemic is live touring music. And I what I worry about is because it's not as hot, maybe you just can't say it's not as salient any music in general doesn't drive consciousness the way it did with Jimi Hendrix and Miles and Densmore and all these cats. That what are the impediments? Are you worried about what is your belief about the future of live touring music coming out of the pandemic?
Yeah, it's tragic. Well, I would say that the pandemic has crippled all of the arts. Live music, theater, oh God. That's the beauty of the moment. It's
right.
A community, instant community. But, I mean, even with this glimmer of a little light coming into this fucking dark forest we've been in, now they're saying 10% capacity or whatever the hell. They're trying to really slowly open. And I got a lift from that news.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so we will get out of this, I mean, it might take another friggin' year or two to fully get out of this.
I agree.
But it really has been rough on the arts, just, oh.
I want you to talk, and I want you to dive into. Even though you've never been to the Ganges River in India, but I want you to dive into the spiritual part of it here. How much of I mean, again, we were already in a psychedelicized, insane world before the pandemic, to a degree.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
Psychedelicized, insane world. What do you mean by that?
Well,
it sounds critical of psychedelics.
Well, I mean, you could basically not have taken a hit of acid, and every day with Donald Trump was basically could be a bad trip.
Yeah, right, that's right. Exactly.
And so the question is, can you talk about how the lack? Because I never realized this before the pandemic, but good, bad, or indifferent, you had live music in every city in the world probably going on, and that would raise the overall vibration. Speaking of Bob Marley, how much of the since the pandemic began, how much can you attribute sort of the I don't want to say dysfunction, but malaise and also despair has to do with the lack of live music and how low the vibration is right now?
Yeah, well, to get cosmic, like I said, we were all kind of forced into being monks, whether we like it or not. And so during this long silence, everybody's been looking in and working on their interior shit. And so I've got one tattoo. It's a yin and yang sign on my forearm. Out of this global initiation and decline, when we come out, maybe, hopefully, out of the silence will come the greatest fucking music we've ever heard in a long time. Who knows, Maybe, I think hip-hop was really speaking to some important stuff for a while. So, I don't listen to it because drum machines are not my cup of tea.
No.
But I don't know. I'm just maybe I'm an eternal optimist. But eventually, there's going to be some vibrations that are. I mean, it's the community that's hurting. I always used to say, I think I say it in the new book. It doesn't matter if you're a duet or a 40-piece orchestra. Let's pretend, metaphorically, that's one person. And then the audience, Madison Square Garden or a club, that's the other person. The two of you are going to dance tonight. And the magic of the moment live is you don't know if it's going to be like a waltz or a salsa, metaphorically.
Mm-hmm.
and that's the beauty of instant community. With you can feel the audience when it's pin drop time or when they're just screaming, and it's a dance and it's a healing, totally healing community, and that's what's really hurting. But out of all this silence, I think eventually will come some gorgeous vibration.
It's all right. It's all right.
Say that that if somebody, I mean, why was your generation of drummers specifically so individualistic, and what is your advice to cats? I mean, Rick Marotta is like, you know, he's in one room and he hears somebody in another room and he goes, that's got to be a machine, and he walks in and there's human beings playing machine parts, John. So we're turning into an automation. And what I'm saying is how, and you don't have to preach. What is your advice to younger cats if we are going to see a rebirth and an enlightenment period of music? It's going to come from rhythm sections, and it's going to come from individual sound, not comping. So how did you wean yourself off? You begged, borrowed, and steal from all your idols. How did you find your own individual sound?
Yeah, you can't limit it to... like back in the day, Jim said prophetically, maybe in the future, music will just be one guy with a bunch of machines.
He said that? He said that?
Yeah,
Holy.
he said that.
Oh my God.
Right. So there's that, and then there's drummers at home working and listening to all these legendary players and honing their craft, and I'm pretty sure it's my first book where I go on about this and say, hey, you know, I understand drum machines were people that had no money, and they created a political rap on top and birthed hip-hop. Right. So that's cool. But I say in that book, the discipline of honing your feel, the pulse, is everything. And if you don't have that, then you don't have the consciousness evolving of the drummer if it's a machine. And it's kind of makes me nervous that, well, the first drum machines had a button, the human button, where you pushed it and the machine rushed and dragged like a human.
I didn't know
that. What
that.
does that say?
Yeah.
What does that say? Well, and now there's generations that are uncomfortable if it's not a metronomic machine drumming part. That makes me pretty damn nervous.
Because
the human element to be human is to be humiliated, to have error, and from the error you recover with. Miles said, "You play a bad note, you don't know if it's bad until the next note."
That's right. That's right.
That's pretty smart.
If you, go ahead. I mean, what's?
I'm being hopeful, but it'll come out of people with machines. It'll come out of people playing original instruments, acoustic. Maybe it'll go back to totally acoustic for a while. You can't. The human spirit is unreal.
It is. Well, and that's why I love you. I mean, you're a great drummer, but your spirit supersedes who you are as a person. And I mean, basically, my final question is, what did you take for granted before the pandemic that you will never? I mean, what are you jonesing to do? We're all monks, but I mean, like, I know you were very, you could really pick and choose the kind of, you wanted to get, whatever gigs you chose, you wanted to do it for a cause, or, you wanted to get off. And I mean, you weren't road dogging it, but what is sort of that salient thing that you will never take for granted again?
Everything, Jake.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
Wow,
I mean,
man.
I would be out meeting people and signing books and all that.
That's right.
But what blows my mind is, corny phrase, smell the roses. I mean, it's just amazing that all this, the greenhouse gases are down because we're not flying all over the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Gaia, Mother Nature, is saying, you've had your foot on my chest, I'm going to cut a toe off.
That's right.
So there's something to, I think when we come out, as we come out of this, if we take with us more gratitude for everything we're seeing and hearing, and go slower, because, the planet is saying, come on, hey, hold it. This is going to get Darwinian if you don't clean it up a little. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There? No disrespect to all the horrible death, and I just got my shot, and and I have friends who got sick, and it's terrible. But it's also shit doesn't happen for no reason. It's all a teaching, I mean, so.
Well, and look what's happening.
Come out of this with more consciousness and go slower and observe everything and be more sensitive. And boy, am I on the soapbox.
No, you know what it is? I feel like that's what you've always been about in some ways. And if you come out with that, if you already have, I think the people that have had, like you told me in our first interview, you said, with Robbie and Ray, they came from, the ring got so tight, but they couldn't. They needed more materialism, more toys. They had to go back on the road as the Doors. And I think that this has been a time when people have had to look, like you said, deep in themselves. What is actually there? So I feel like cats like us, we don't have to preach. We can just come out of this thing and lead with our heart. Hopefully, I would assume you're not going to be playing gigs with 10% capacity, though.
No, but eventually I will play, probably with Robbie here and there, at something that probably a benefit.
Right.
I mean, and we'll be more selective, but maybe we should all be more selective in all the choices we make in life. Just hopefully it's a raising of consciousness, So.
Well, I'm going to raise.
Oh man, it's the Tao.
The Tao. I'm going to raise a glass to Joe Porcaro and Amel Richards, baby. John.
Wait a minute. Joe's still with us, yeah?
Joe left, man, a long time ago.
No. You're thinking of his son.
No, I'm thinking of Papa Joe, man. I was super.
Oh, Papa Joe.
You said
Picaro.
No.
You don't mean Picaro.
No, I'm talking about their father, Joe. He died a long time ago. He died last year. He died maybe 3 months after Amel did. I'm surprised. Okay, yeah, you didn't know that. All right, yeah, he's gone. Steve and Jeff's father. Yeah. So, but anyway, the Rhythm Brothers are in.
That hurts.
Well, I'm glad
I was with him at Amel's memorial, and he was 90, and I saw him play with David, piano player.
David Foster. David Foster.
No.
Yeah, they passed within about 3-4 months of each other.
Oh, there you go. He was playing really good at 90.
Oh well, that
so
gig
there you have it.
Yeah, well, that gig we saw at Bogey's was burning when they did their 80th birthday. But John, I look forward to connecting with you.
Hey, Jake, it's just such a pleasure that the breadth of your knowledge is like all over the place.
Well, that's what that's the sale. And listen, and again, I tell you, I don't read. Although I read your book, I don't learn this out of books. I learn from the cats, and so I've done 2,000 interviews, and I'll send you the links to my books. Check them out. I think you really dig them, man.
Great.
Much love to you, John.
Hey, back at you, dude.
All right, dude. Be good, man.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Later. Great to reconnect with a great drummer and a great human being, John Densmore. That's it for the Jake Feinberg Show, and we will see you later.
Yes, about you. Oh, I just can't keep me